Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is TV's Nick Shodel. Just jumping in at the top here to let you all know that the recording of this week's podcast was a fucking technical disaster. Now, normally I pride myself on a quality edit with seamless connections between otherwise disparate parts of our recording. But this week, realistically, that is just going to be impossible. So instead, I'm doing the reverse. Anytime you hear this sting, that indicates some form of technical catastrophe. Did Skype fuck up again? Did Michael's computer stop recording? Did we have to do a restart, which took over 40 minutes? Who knows? Play along at home. In the meantime, enjoy this episode, and hopefully things will be back to normal next week.
All right. How do you want to start?
Oh, you don't want to just be like naturally charismatic as always?
I know I had a good, good openness.
You're delegating your natural charisma.
I had a couple of questions for you.
You got a couple of questions for me?
Just a couple of icebreakers.
Okay, we've done 121 podcasts, but yes, let's break the ice.
Do you wash your legs in the shower?
Yes, and everyone should, yeah.
Okay.
Just think about it. That's where all the cum drips down to.
So intense.
The only way.
I said icebreaker.
There's no point reading another question, is there? Do you wash your legs in the shower?
Nah.
Never. You never get down there.
Rarely. I wash my thighs.
Well, thighs don't really count. Yeah, we're talking shins here.
Yeah.
A shin wash. Do you wash your feet?
Oh, yeah, you gotta wash your feet.
Wait, you wash your feet, but you don't wash your shins?
I need to wash my feet.
Okay, that's more horrifying.
If you know what I mean.
So every time you're in the shower, you're washing your feet?
Yeah.
But then you skip a shin.
See, I just never even thought about it. It's kind of like my lower back. I don't wash that either. Because I know it's just all kind of like.
What about upper back? So you do an over the shoulder.
I'll do a shoulder.
You do a shoulder, but then will you go over, like upper back, or not even? You don't even bother with like shoulder blades, anything down there, off limits.
I'll do like the shoulders because I figure that's like if you've got like oily or like the oils in your hair.
Yeah, your neck's good. Neck's important. Shoulders less so, but like they're in the vicinity, so they just kind of all get done. Plus, I think with the higher up the body you are, the more it feels like you can count on the runoff from the other important areas kind of covering that base. So when you're washing your hair, it's kind of like, well, it's all going to run off my shoulders anyway. I'm basically covered. But the lower down you go, that feels less likely because then you're in pure water down there.
True.
You're catching, direct spray.
Yeah.
Michael, is it possible that you've just take a look at this picture and examine your setup and just see if you can spot anything which might be wrong. Just see if you can.
Wait,
just
take
a
Skype thing.
Just have a look at your Skype. Just look at what I'm seeing right now. And just tell me if there's anything you can see that you might have done wrong.
Okay, it's either about the crab or you're going to say something about my microphone. Are you?
Yes.
You're going to say that the button is on mute?
Uh-huh.
No, it's not.
No, I'm talking about the microphone.
Yeah.
Notice how the button is facing me.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, which way does the microphone need to point? Oh, that's right. Yeah, we point the microphone towards the face. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's very nice.
I think there were a few ways to go about that, and one of One of them was really condescending, and the other one was just I'll just point it out.
The only way
you chose the first one.
The only
obviously.
reason that I went condescending is because you've done it before. If this is a first-time mistake, sure, I'll cut it out of the episode. No one needs to know that you started the show backward-facing. Second time round, that's an open season. Hunting's in session.
I think there's an argument to be made for the fact that you kind of are condescending in general. That's part of your personality.
All this is you lashing out because you feel mistreated. You're latching on to any ammunition you have at hand.
I mean, even this is condescending.
You're
explaining.
Your psychology is set up so that, that's the kind of condescending I could be.
It's all good. I take criticism well. I've had heaps of practice.
Heaps of practice at taking the criticism?
Just receiving criticism.
Just from all parties. All directions.
Well, mostly my dad.
Sometimes you're blindsided.
Then the teachers. Then the police.
Mm-hmm. Ex-girlfriends.
And, ex-girlfriends.
The mirror.
And then finally the internet.
That one bastion of safety that you thought you had for so many years, even that turned its back on you.
Oh.
Alas.
Should have seen it coming.
Should have. Before we move past it, so you're drinking a beer. Have you been drinking regularly? Less much? Less? More?
I've had like a couple
of
drinking sessions. I think I'm getting a little bit drunker a bit quicker, but I'm not really going over. I haven't had a big one.
Yeah.
I think my desire to drink these days, even before I did the dry July, was declining anyway. Just the hangover recovery mixed with just wanting to do, what the fuck? Sorry.
Garage band again.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's stopping recording and saying disk is too slow or system overload. Is that good?
It's not ideal. I'm a little bit tempted to... I was planning to just seamlessly edit through. But fuck me. I mean, it almost bears acknowledgement to the podcasting listeners that Michael's computer just took half an hour to restart. And this is the kind of level of technology that we're fighting against. And that's why we've decided to launch a Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/michaelscomputer, please, just chip in $1 a month. And in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have saved up enough to upgrade your piece of shit laptop.
Yeah, that was pretty unbearable.
Welcome to Default. Yeah, this is a podcast. And we join the dots. And you've got a dot, I've got a dot.
Do I have a dot?
We draw circles around them and make them boobs. Sitting through the internet with me, Michael Zabricki.
Whatever.
It is such a relief to see you. And I'm Nick. Hi, Nick. Hi. Let's fucking do this now. Now I'm punchy. I'm ready. Let's pod hard. Let's pod fast. Let's get this shit happening while every planet is in alignment before things go
Yep.
bad.
I'm just looking here at a spinning circle.
Apologies to everyone if the audio is shit on this episode. If it is, it's because I've just used the Skype recording because Michael's computer has shat itself. So forgive us. This week, let's talk about war because it feels like we've been in a battle zone. And is it offensive to use that analogy? No, it's not. Well, thanks so much for joining in. That was worth the half hour of sitting in front of our computers. Follow us on Deep Thought.
All right, so
Talk to me about war. I think war is an interesting sort of area that we haven't really explored in a great detail. I don't really have a huge jumping in point here, but there's a lot of.
I've been mulling on this all day, so I've taken down a bunch of notes.
Okay.
And I also got a big email from my dad, who he's maybe the first question we should ask, maybe the most important question we should ask when talking about war is, why are dads really into war?
Well, it's interesting. It sounds silly, but they're closer to having experienced war than we are, right?
But you're speaking specifically with regards to the world wars, right?
Yeah, but wars. I mean, I know that there are wars ongoing now, but we're not witness to them in the same way. They're not conscripted armies. They're not active hot wars. There's cold wars, there's technological wars, there's insurgencies and terrorism and all these kinds of things, but it's more abstract for us, right? And we're not forced to participate in it or even to really think about it. Whereas I think for our dads, their dads were in the war. Like, they were in wars or around it. So for them, I think they're into it because it was something that they learnt firsthand, right?
Yeah, that's definitely one reason why. I think there's also, I mean, as I'm getting older, when I was younger, war was probably the least interesting thing I could think of, and now as I get older, it has becoming increasingly more interesting, and I think part of it is because it's providing context for how you're living your life, or how your life is currently.
As in for how it is the way that it is.
How it is the way that it is. And a part of that is maturity and not taking things for granted. And so I think there's a little bit of that as well.
I think that you're right, and that also part of that is the older you get, the more you've seen disasters and near misses, the more you have a sense of the fragility of society, the more you have an understanding of the cycles of life and how past human tendencies are still within us. And, you know, it's a little on the nose, but there was a fascist movement 100 years ago, and there's fascism rising in places around the world now. So, like, I think that dads is certainly a valid suggestion, but really I think it's almost more correlated with age, really. Like, the older you get, the more you seem interested in war, right?
Yeah, I think that's very true. Okay, well, can you think... All right, so I've got a bunch of notes here. Obviously, there's negative consequences of war.
Arguably, it's only negative consequences.
Oh, okay. Well, here we go. So if you're saying that there are only negative consequences of war, you would argue then that war is not necessary.
That's me taking a kind of a devil's advocate position. I do think that there have been obvious benefits of war. War stopped Hitler. You can't really argue against certain outcomes from war. So it was a little bit glib, but
okay.
Yeah, I suppose that's kind of a question of your principles rather than the reality or the history, right? In how you ascribe the morality of war.
Yeah. Well, so I was trying to think of examples where war was beneficial, broadly speaking, and I was asking my dad, and he's often brought up the Nagasaki bomb. Wait, Hiroshima?
Yeah.
They're the same.
They're not the same. They're from the same war.
So I'll just read out what Dad said. The biggest question is always, does the end justify the means? For example, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Also, the finger pointing that goes when we hear about soldiers firing at innocent victims in raids and going from village to village. It is always a snapshot, and they are judged ferociously for it. However, the context is different. Scared 19-year-olds having seen their comrades killed getting itchy fingers. The ethics behind sending young men to fight war in, say, Vietnam, which was highly susceptible to communism. I just realized that wasn't as specific as I remembered.
He's thrown a few valid points forward, right? One of which is the age of the people over there, which I think is interesting, and I have something on, but we might table that a little bit later for the discussion. But the ends justifying the means that's around the vicinity of what we're talking about, right? Which is the idea of the morality of it. Was his positioning there that the Japanese atomic bombs were a situation where the ends were justified or were worth?
He's always argued that when people say that the bomb dropped on Hiroshima was an act of evil, he has always argued that it was done to prevent a lot of harm done to the US. Well, I mean, it's tough because you're talking hypothetically, but he's always argued that the US needed to bomb the fuck out of Japan in order to minimize harm in their own country.
Yeah, that's definitely a perspective which many in America and around the world would support. It is interesting, though, that we now live in a world in which, I have Japanese friends. Like, if you actually take a step back and just think about it, like, not like within the lifetimes of people who are still living, these countries were actively hostile towards each other, and now you have like friends on the other side, and you wonder whether that's because of the way the war played out, or whether it reflects the fact that ultimately there's not much difference between us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. War's funny because you have these, in many cases, maybe like with Israel and Palestine, you'll have areas that are, or communities that are living side by side, and they've developed this extreme rivalry, if you want to be generous. But that war kind of exists almost exclusively politically. Do you know what I mean?
It comes about war politically.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe is that true?
War is a political act because a war, I think, only takes place between. Well, the wars that we're talking about, they take place between nation states, right? I suppose you can have wars between different peoples. You can have sects,
but even then, it's still
religions
political, isn't it?
Within a state, but I think they're all. For political purposes, right?
Yeah.
No one really has a war without some sort of political goal.
Right. So what I was trying to say is that war seems to, generally speaking, come about as a result of high-level government officials deciding that they are going to war with another country, for example. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't necessarily trickle down to the people.
As in the people don't know, or the people don't have that say, or the people aren't actually as motivated as those at the top are.
There's a detachment between calling yourself, just that. Let's say, for example, the United States going to war with Japan. There's a detachment between calling you yourself an American or a Japanese person and also being at war with those countries. But that war is almost... It's not really... War doesn't exist on a personal level. It exists at...
Yeah, you can't have a one-man war.
Almost at an official level.
Yeah.
So it's not like the whole country has decided, oh, we hate the Japanese now. This is like strategy and the government wants, the US government wants the Japanese government to behave in this way, or they want certain things that
or they want
Iraq has or something.
Want to hinder a different foe, like we do one thing in one country because they're allied with a different country, or they've got a supply line, or they've got a, like it can be so political that it's actually you're attacking the person who's not the person.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess like the main reasons for war would be probably territory,
assets.
Weirdly, I mean I'm kind of like speaking as if I don't actually know much about this, but like you said, the US government kind of thinks of itself as like, I don't know if it thinks of itself as like the schoolyard bully that's kind of keeping everyone else in line, but when it like interferes in other governments such as, I don't know, where were they, Afghanistan or Iraq and stuff, they're kind of acting like this. They're almost saying, this is how we want you to hold yourselves.
Yeah. Sorry, what was your point with that? It's just interesting the way that they that some of the purpose of that is to actually instill American values into other places.
Yeah. Which seems kind of ridiculous in a way, but also seems really necessary.
Well, again, it depends on the situation we're talking about, isn't it? But yeah, in terms of if you're going to do a short list of the potential outcomes that war-seeking bodies are after, I think territory is one of them. I think assets or something that they possess there is one of them. And then political upheaval or stability, like either ousting a person in charge who's a threat, or installing a functioning democracy where there wasn't one, or attempting for the sake of those around who may be your allies to make the situation better for them. That's like that's the ring-in kind of the side of being a superpower, is that if you're allied with a smaller country that needs your help, you might have to come into battle for them.
Right. And you were saying earlier that you had some friends that were enlisted in the Navy, in the New Zealand Navy?
No, in the Australian Navy. Yeah, one of my friends out of high school went over. I can't remember actually where she first went to, but yeah, she joined the Navy and she's been there ever since. So that's a good decade. And I mean, obviously, Australia is unique in its own sense because it's not connected to other places, right? So all of our forces and armed services, you have to like travel somewhere else for it. But then, secondly, I believe that the Navy is mostly humanitarian work a lot of the time, or at least the Australian Navy, because we're not really having naval battles anymore anywhere really. So I think those services.
But they do other things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But no one's having a ship fight, are they?
I wish they did.
You just want to play Master
Just like
and
with-
Commander.
Just like with cannons and stuff.
Cannons, yeah. Pirate fights.
Now they're like border security, aren't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, some of them. Well, actually, I actually don't know if the Navy does border security in the sense of like border force. Border force is the
Right.
department, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know if they're Navy people or they're not. I don't know if it's the same or different.
There was a period of about 6 months that I was genuinely considering enlisting.
Why was that?
Well, seemed like a good option. The government pays for a degree for you. You get a salary. I mean, in some ways, it seemed like a bit of a cop out.
A cool haircut.
Sick haircut. Nice boots. I assume they come with the deal.
Part of the deal. Get
But
to be
yeah, I
close
was,
to
and
the
this-
sea.
There's plenty of, and it's that's the other thing. The ads that you see, it does seem like it would be exciting, at least. Some
How
of
do you
the
think
time.
your personality would have fit into a naval architecture?
The other thing was that it would be an external discipline that I could opt into, which because I found self-discipline a little difficult. So there was that as well. I thought.
So you
like,
actually thought that was appealing.
Yeah.
Interesting, because when I think of that kind of regimented lifestyle, get up at 5 a.m., you don't get to shit unless you get permission, like all this kind of stuff, where you're at the whims and behest of this very sort of rigid, hierarchical power structure. It just feels very antithetical to my interests and desires.
I like the idea of it. I tend to romanticize things, though. I'll give me anything, I'll romanticize it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it is one of those things where actually you find the rhythm, and I don't mean just you. I'm speaking about myself as well. But like, maybe it does become more palatable when you're in it, in a way. Like from the outside, it sounds worse than it is, and in reality, it's just like calling people the right pronoun. It's Admiral, Colonel, and that's about it.
The other thing is that I mean, there are a bunch of reasons why I decided not to go ahead with that. Although when I was 17, I did do it.
They didn't let
a
you
full
take the
day of-
saxophone on the water. You
What?
wanted to be the Navy's first saxophonist. Just standing at the bow.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring
Just-
cool. I'm gonna bring the cool to the.
Just reenacting Titanic, but with the sax.
Yeah. Before you know it, everyone's smoking doobies on the ship. We're like, hey
Maybe the-
guys, how about we just chill out a little?
The cool Navy.
Yeah. Everyone's wearing like Ray-Bans, fedoras. I'm gonna shake things up.
Ray-Bans, fedoras, and saxophones. The Michael
The epitome of cool.
Navy experience.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting that the government will pay. The government's basically bribing you to join the army.
Yeah, that's what incentives are.
Problematic.
Problematic. Why is it
I
problematic?
think problematic.
Because we're not at war.
Well, what does that have to do with it?
Well, if you're at war, then it kind of feels like, okay, you actually need these people for something. Sure, bribe them. If we're not at war, then you're not really putting them in as much risk, right? Then it's kind of like, well, why not? Hey, it's quiet. We need some people here to run the boats.
Okay. That's fair. I guess I was just thinking about like being deployed immediately.
Well, but I
So,
don't
like-
think anyone goes into that with without open eyes, you know?
I was listening to some podcasts today on this subject, on people, soldiers, and a lot of them were saying that they enjoy the fact that they are part of something bigger than them. Not bigger than them. Something. They like the idea of being a pawn, basically, in a kind of a larger. I shouldn't have used pawn. I should have used cog.
No,
a small cog in a big chessboard. Part of a bigger plan. Part of a big picture plan.
Yeah. And
I was thinking that's precisely the reason why, like, I would be completely turned off by that, because you're basically enacting decisions made by people way above you.
Yeah.
I mean that's so scary. That's such a scary thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do your friends kind of talk about it?
It's interesting because I feel like it's one of those things where you get it or you don't. You're either in or you're out. Like, I can go up to a builder friend and be like, "Hey, how's the 2x4s today?" And they'll be like, "Okay, shut up, mate. You don't know what you're talking about." And I just I think that the Navy's the same way, where, like, I'll ask them, "Oh, how's it all going? You know, you're enjoying it," but it's not like, I don't think it's like another job. You know, it's its own world, and unless you get it, unless you've done it and have been in it, I don't think they bother trying to explain it to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're just like, you're a civilian.
Yeah.
It's like being in a religion.
And I don't mean, like, I still get, like, you get the top level, which is like, oh yeah, you know, I was in Timor for a couple of weeks and we were dropping off rice or whatever. Like, you'll get a surface level thing, but I don't think that there's any sort of attempt, well, at least from her, I haven't really had an honest to God, like, chat where I've understood for her what the appeal was or what it did for her that she needed, you know. She was a very smart woman.
Yeah.
So
that's
and she's got a couple of degrees out of it, and, you know, like, obviously it pays pretty well, I think, and they contract you for years, right? So you sign up and it could be 7 years out of the gate. And then you re-up, because at that point, you know, you're 7 years in, and all of a sudden, what's another 3 years, or what's one more degree and another couple of stints of overseas travel? So,
what about the respect / stigma?
As in the idea of how we're treated in public.
Yeah.
How we treat it in public. Yeah, it's interesting because that's a very American sort of archetype, isn't it? The idea of the
respect
vet,
yeah.
the respect, the doff your cap, the thank you for your service. That's an American trope.
I think that's universal. That's got to be universal, man. Like, maybe it's not. It's not.
Have you ever seen that in real life in Australia ever? We do a thing for. We have
the Anzacs.
A national, Anzac kind of a digger mentality, where it's like the diggers, that's our sort of iconography, and the Remembrance Day side of the Anzac side of things. But, I mean, the age of all of those veterans is they're octogenarians now or older. So any of the people you see there, you're not likely to bump into them in the street and realize they're returning veterans. They're just, you know, they're grandparents now. So I don't think that they have the same, like, I've seen I don't know, Navy or Army dressed people around the place, whether they're like in a supermarket or at the airport or something like that. And I've never had the thought in my head, I should go up and say thank you for your service. And it's not.
But you do respect it.
I respect the job, but I don't I don't romanticize it, I don't think. And maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe I should show them some more appreciation for what they've done. But I suppose if I'm thinking it aloud now and I'm opening myself up to feedback on this, I suppose my thought process is these days it's voluntary. So if you opt in to go join one of these organizations, it is a choice you've made for your career. I say that not because you're careerist, but you've made that choice because you wanted to do that job, in the same way that a humanitarian could go work at an NGO and then go to Africa and hand out rice. Or, you could go and join an accounting firm. And to me, they seem on a same nobility, if that makes any sense. And maybe that's unreasonable because there is still the possibility and the occurrence when these people go off into dangerous areas and they, fight combatants and save villages and do real serious shit. But for whatever reason in my head, I don't think of it as that fabled sacrifice like the world wars were.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess by that token, you should almost have as much respect for your local police.
Well, that was exactly the point I was about to say. I was about to say that they seem to me the same way. That they're people who've decided to serve their community and to defend against the dangerous, but their playing field is overseas or more remote. But I see them in the same way, which is I respect the police and I respect the armed services, but I don't think that I ascribe as much sacrifice out of it as I did to perhaps previous generations of those who served. And that's probably wrong of me. Again, I suppose it's also situational as well, because in my head when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about, my friend in the Navy. But, there are Australian troops in Afghanistan, and I do have that image of you've made a sacrifice there because you went to a war zone for those Afghanistan serving troops. So I suppose it is situational for me.
But then what if the government is not making great decisions, and you have thought that's what is so scary about enlisting, I think, is you have such a lack of agency over what you're doing. Like the government could start making horrendous decisions,
I'm sure that there are
ethically compromising positions, and you just have to do them.
I'm sure there are many instances of that in the Trump administration, because his foreign policy is all over the place. But imagine if you're an LGBT serving service member over there. Like they've ousted transgender people from the military. Like what a fucking what a slap in the face that is. If you're actively wanting to serve, completely able to serve in the military, and then get kicked out. It's like it's ludicrously like evil. So I don't know how you reconcile your inherent learned respect for the role and the hierarchy and the duty and the political reality, which is at the head of the pyramid, the head of the power chain, could be an idiot.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, on the subject of serving for your country, directly correlated with patriotism. So you kind of assume that people that do enlist are incredibly patriotic, which automatically is, I don't know, a bit suspicious to me.
I ascribe less patriotism these days than I used to. Again, I think it's the same sort of the slow diffusing of the intensity of global conflict. So like now I don't think that someone who joins up for the Navy now is necessarily like doing it for patriotism. They're doing it in the same way that like is a police officer like a city patriot? Do they do it for the pride of their city, or is it more like they're just a good person who's trying to help out, you know, and this is an avenue for it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I've got a bit of a caricature of like a US soldier.
Well, and
in my
at
head.
the same time, you know, there's hundreds and thousands of those people, so it probably does align with quite a few of them.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about that we touched on earlier was the age of people as well, because when you think back to war in, you know, previous centuries, the people that were conscripted were kids, you know, teenagers. People pretended to be older than they actually were in order to go and serve, because it was seen as a duty or noble or respected so much, or essential. But when you actually think about like 19-year-olds charging into battle with a couple of weeks worth of training and then facing down in a war zone against other 19-year-olds, like it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Imagining
we're older than so many of those people.
Yeah. Just the idea of imagining just someone's head, you know, blowing up in front of you, seeing the most horrific shit.
Yeah.
That you could only really see these days on the internet, but seeing it up close at such a young age, and then
with no support network, with no understanding, no choice in what you do.
Like I just be like, what? Why? Like, in some sense, it just seems so stupid. Like it seems like, okay, if I'm Australia and I want, you know, I want, like, you know, territory of Indonesia, and I'm the governor, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to invade in Indonesia and claim this territory for whatever reason. It seems like like how do you get to war? How do you get to a point where it's necessary at that point for you to harm the people of that nation?
Yeah.
It seems like there should be another way. Like maybe, you know, you do like a debating contest.
You're thinking of diplomacy.
Like it seems like it's. I don't necessarily understand the link between wanting another country to do something, or another nation to do something, or give you something, or whatever it is, and needing the only way forward is for you to harm their people.
Well, it
doesn't necessarily correlate. It doesn't necessarily connect.
Yeah, except
you know
that.
What I mean?
Yeah, I mean, historically,
it gets their attention. That's what it is. It gets their attention. That's what it is.
Well,
fuck up their shit.
But it's also, I mean, look, there's arguments here to be. You could bring in the concept of like masculinity and dick swinging. You know, if you're, I mean, historically for hundreds of years, the leaders of just about every place on Earth were men. And if you want a thing and you're an uneducated, you know, 19th century man, what's the way you get the thing? You go and beat up the other guy till he gives you the thing, right? Like that was just kind of coarse masculine
Well,
biology for
Well,
millennia, right?
I would argue that that's
Extrapolated to.
but also to the animal kingdom.
That's what I mean.
Largely,
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lineage of the way that humans as creatures solve their problems, which
that's
was
interesting.
You just go and you beat them up and you take their shit, right? So
That's interesting because it's like it is in that way an extrapolation of, just another predator in the savannah.
Yeah. And
wanting the women, the head, the alpha lion,
it's a
wanting
rival. Yeah.
It's just that.
It's literally territory, isn't it? It's staking a territory, claiming its assets, doing with that space what you want to, right? It's just biology. And so the idea that actually, why don't we talk this out as is such an obvious solution? Well, we've only recently got to the point where we can talk about things speedily.
At all.
At all, on it like a biological sense. But even like, it used to be you'd have to send a letter around the side of the world. So you can't resolve diplomacy with the same efficiency as when it takes 6 weeks to travel, across somewhere by a boat. Or to solve again, one of the ways they used to solve feuds or to strengthen houses was arranged marriages. They'd marry prince and princess off to form a new, monarchy, right? It was that was their solution to let's not have a war. Let's put this aside because now both parties are invested in this because we've married you two together. So it was a gradual process of diplomatic evolution to get to the point where we can say, why are we bashing each people's heads in? But I don't know if you can ever truly break free of that, right? Do you think there'll ever be a time when humanity never has a war again?
So, thinking about this all day. And okay, so this is my thoughts on that. Didn't need to say that. I can just say the thing. I don't need to intro it. I can just say it.
And here comes Michael with his thoughts, which he will now speak to
now. So war essentially exists between it's a tribal activity. What'd you do on the weekend, Ward? It exists between tribes. Tribes are a funny thing in themselves. So I was thinking, what would it take for war to not exist? And I was thinking, okay, what about space wars? Now, if we came into contact with another civilization and they wanted fucking Earth, would that then force us to basically identify as Earthlings? Because all of our tribe ideas, or our, I'm an American, I'm an Australian, whatever, that goes out the window. Because now the bigger threat is not the fucking Chinese, it's the Glongians who have come to inhabit Earth because they're looking for another planet with oxygen, and they are also oxygenated. So it doesn't really say, that theory doesn't really say that war will be completely eradicated, but intergalactic war might eradicate
Earth wars.
It's
a good point. In the same way that the various territories of within a nation sort of gave up fighting within when you became like a nation as a whole and started fighting out, right?
Yeah, it becomes the problem becomes way bigger.
It's unity, right? Who's us? Who's us and who's them?
Yeah. If there was another species, we would instantly become people of Earth.
Yeah.
Which is what the government wants you to think. by the way.
Take off that tinfoil hat. There's a very good series of books called The Three Body Problem and The Dark Forest and Death's End, which I will recommend to you, that are a science fiction series about just that, which is that an alien species discovers where Earth is and is going to come and invade, but they're so far away that it'll happen 400 years in the future. And what does Earth do knowing that there's an invasion coming in 10 generations time, 112 generations time? It's a really fucking good.
What year is that book?
Oh, like 2012 or something. It's pretty recent. It's a Chinese author called Chin Lu.
Okay, I don't read Chinese.
No, it's in English, but it was translated from Chinese.
But you have to read it from right to left.
You have to. Yeah, all the words are backwards.
Damn it.
It is a very if you get into that conceptually, then yes, it's a very good way to enjoy that.
I hope that happens just as I'm about to die.
You just want to see a glimpse of intergalactic war and be like, yeah, fuck, that was cool.
Oh yeah. Now that I know it exists, that's
time
enough.
to clock out.
My kids, I'm very
Download
sorry.
me into the army bots, and I'll fight when I'm dead.
That was my knuckles.
Jesus. Any other sprinklings of war that you want to touch on there? I mean, we haven't really.
I do apologize. I was way more jazzed on this earlier on in the day, and I had heaps of thoughts. And then I think after the technical issues, it just kind of
sapped. No, I thought you were very.
You froze up a little bit.
No,
it didn't make any sense.
No, you brought lots of good thoughts and tangents in. You are being harsh on yourself.
Yeah. No, I'm not being harsh on myself. I know when it happens. It happened last time when we were talking about the transgender in sports. I've got like this is what happens. I've got like all these like ideas and thoughts on it, but they're not fully formed. They're like green bananas, and then I'm just like, they're just a bunch of green bananas, and I'm just like. And then we do the podcast, and I'm just like a banana vendor. And then I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Just have a banana. Have a banana. Have a banana. And then all of my customers are going, this is not ripe. This is not. And I'm just saying, wait a few
satisfy
days.
me. Well, we're always able to revisit topics as well. I mean, I don't think that we're going to walk out of this discussion having concluded war is bad. It was never like there was a question here to answer. It was more just an exploration to see what we thought about the topic, right?
That's what this always is. It's just like...
Well, yeah, but sometimes it comes from a question, and sometimes it comes from an interest. And I think this is just a podcast about an interest, which is, what does war mean to us, and what do we think about the people who participate in it, and the governments that orchestrate it, and what will it look like in the future? I mean, there's a whole other technological angle there, which we haven't touched on, which is... what does drones mean in this day and age, and what does cyber warfare mean, and what does...
Well, that's the thing. So I'm just going to say this real quick, just because I learned it, and now I have to get it out. That this guy was talking about the different domains of war, and he was saying, okay, so you got land, sea, air, and then you got space and cyber.
My 5 favorite porn categories.
But what's scary is like how if you think about war in the future, I mean, we haven't really seen. I mean, we've seen chemical warfare used on its own people, i.e., what was his name, Assad in Syria, but kind of international chemical warfare you haven't really seen. But that's like surely where it's going. Also, cyber warfare. Russians
we're already seeing
working on that.
Yeah, cracking some like essential infrastructure, turning off all the power grids, or blowing up the internet, or something insane. It's all.
Sorry, maybe that's the answer to my earlier question, with being. is the harm of the nation's people really necessary in terms of, killing soldiers in, World War One? Is that really necessary? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's shutting down their systems, and maybe it's slowing down their use of communication.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not necessarily. Maybe it's just Jim putting Dwight's stapler in jelly.
There's
Maybe that's where war goes.
but at the same time, then you start to blur the lines between diplomacy and war, right? Because sanctions, stopping, like a Russian bank from operating in the US, or preventing them from receiving imports, or that kind of stuff. That's a wartime concept extrapolated now to a peacetime diplomatic end, right? So I think there is going to be evolution of some of these concepts beyond what we thought of as traditional war into this strange 21st century technological world that we live in. And all of a sudden you'll be fighting in the abstract, and government versus government may not involve any humans at all. It's
right.
Is that arguably a good outcome? Probably, if you're looking at the pure human cost, but what's the outcome that you get from an attack like that? Like, if you're disabling infrastructure, well, that will still hurt innocents, won't it?
Yeah, I guess, but you could also if you it would. But I'm sure if it's been,
it wouldn't
done
be
before,
killing them like an
you
army.
You could stop someone's supply of fuel, and then the whole nation can't drive.
Yeah.
It's probably going to inadvertently hurt some people, but in itself, it's not really harmful.
Yeah. It's more like siege warfare. Well, we can always pick up war again if you have intervening thoughts.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what people listening at home think about. What's your thoughts on war? Have you ever been interested in joining the armed services, and what do you think they should play in terms of role in modern democracy? Get in touch.
I should put up a link for the recruitment.
Yeah, I'll put in a photo of you with a sailor's hat. Before I jump on, did your GarageBand end up recording, or is it? It's all.
It actually just started.
Nice.
Working
Okay.
fine.
Cool. Well, let's not jinx it.
There's probably a good chunk in there that.
Oh, I know. It's going to be
missing.
It's going to be a headache. But
I apologize.
That's all right.
I feel really bad when that happens. I do.
Yeah. Look. Shit happens. That's
all you got. That didn't make me feel better at all.
Well, what am I going to do?
Good,
I can't buy a new laptop. You can't buy you a new laptop. So what are we going to do? You can either get angry about it, or you can just get on with it.
Get angry about it.
Fuck you, man. I'm sorry. I take it back. I didn't mean it.
Yeah, you'd get passive aggressive about it. That's what you'd do.
I'd be condescending about it.
Do you want to make a bet on who the next president's going to be, and also maybe the party nominees?
The party nominees.
Do you want to make an actual wager?
Okay, as in that's party nominees would come first, right? So who's going to be the nominee for each party, and then who's going to be the president after that?
Yeah.
Do you want to do that simultaneously? So we pick both now, or you do the party nominees, then you find out how it goes, and then you pick which of the two is going to be the president?
It's a side pot. Okay, so $20 for the president and $10 for the nominees. Does that make sense?
But we have to bet both now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not waiting for the nominees to be confirmed.
No.
In order to
you have to
bet the president. So it's all now. Yeah.
That can be a different bet.
Yeah, no, okay. You want to guess from all of the Democratic candidates who the Democratic nominee is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
I mean, you can cut them in. You can cut them in by at least half.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, fuck me. I'm really not prepared to think about this. Can I table that and bring it for the start of the next pod?
Okay.
Because I genuinely want to have a think, because it is still so far away and so malleable that I need to do some mental maths as to like play the game, you know.
All right.
I know who I'd vote
start
for.
Of the next one. Nah, no one cares about that.
Donald
You're going to
Trump.
vote for Warren.
Yeah, I would vote for Warren. I'd also vote for Kamala Harris. How many Democratic candidates can you name?
Well, that's good. Okay. All right. Biden, Harris, Warren, Buttigieg, O'Rourke. Who's that fucking crazy one?
Oh, you're missing a couple of obvious ones here.
Yeah, I know I am.
That you're missing one, which is like literally a Deep Fort character. It feels like one that you've pulled out of your ass. You've got 5.
Can't even remember what I said.
You said Biden, Warren, Kamala,
Harris.
Yeah, Harris,
Buttigieg.
Yeah,
Bit of O'Rourke.
yeah.
Booker.
Missing a real big one.
What is it?
Bernie Sanders.
Fucking hell.
Marianne Williamson.
I'm liking
Marianne
Bernie.
Williamson,
I'm liking Bernie.
with her crystal energy.
What was her name?
Marianne Williamson.
Oh, she's the greatest.
She's like a Kristen
So
Wiig character.
weird. Dude, she's weird. She's weird just for a person. Not
Yeah, not even as
She's
a candidate.
If I went to like a family do of yours and you was like, "This is my auntie, Marianne," I'd be like, "Man, your aunt is a bit weird."
You know, she's like Oprah's friend, right?
Is she?
She's
Of course
Oprah's
she is,
friend.
'cause-
She gives Oprah like spiritual advice.
Fucking hell.
Alrighty, I'll bring my bet to kick off next next time's episode. If you've enjoyed this somewhat probably frenetically edited strange episode, then thank you for being so appreciative. And if you haven't, I've got so many other episodes for you. 120 of them sitting right there at deepfort.podbean.com. And you can just go find our weekly musings, some links to interesting articles. You can comment with us about the development of the world at facebook.com/deepfort. And you can get notified whenever an episode goes live by pressing twitter.com/deepfort. And if you're listening on a
We have a
podcast
Twitter
player,
account?
we sure do. I said this
Really?
in the intro for the past 100 and something episodes, and you just now realize I say twitter.com/deepfort. Just now.
Do we post the same stuff there, or are you just pushing like some other propaganda that I don't know about, representing us?
It's
poorly?
mostly Russian bots. And if you are using it through a podcast player, which I do recommend, as Ben has recently upgraded from listening on the website like a fucking insane person.
Who's Ben?
Ben Camp.
Oh, really?
Listening through the website like a crazy... If you are listening to this on the website right now, oh my God, please. The Podbean website is terrible. Please don't do it to yourself. Get yourself a podcast app on your phone. Download our RSS feed, search for us in your search box, however you want to add us, get us in there and listen to it like a fucking human being.
Why was he listening to it on the website, and why do you know that?
Because I do tech support for friends. It's another benefit is that you get to see all of the URLs to articles that we discussed. You get to see the photos of Michael wearing silly wigs. You get to see like comical visual jokes and all kinds of multi-level chapter support and fast forwarding and everything that the modern podcast feed allows. So don't limit yourself to a shitty web player. Fast forward, chapters, images, links, the podcast experience. It's all there. Jump on your phone. Enjoy it. Deep forward.
I like where that went.
Thank you.
Now, just on Ben Kemp, despite him being a, what would you call it? A technological... Oh, this is rich coming from me, isn't it? I'm just going to abandon that right now. Ben Kemp and his wife, actually more his wife, arguably, have had a little baby.
It's very exciting. Yes, congratulations to Ben.
Congratulations
and his wife,
to those
which of
guys.
course you know her name.
And it will come to me. No, it's Laura. We used to date. And so congratulations to that little family. I mean, that's amazing.
It is.
He's my age.
I know.
He's
and
got
so
a
much
child.
more responsible.
They did it on purpose as well.
They did it on purpose. I like the idea that he's just going around when they're announcing people that they're pregnant. It's like, oh, we're having a baby on purpose. On purpose.
On purpose. That's how I would do it.
Just so you know, deliberate. Yeah, not one of those accidents.
Don't want to brag,
but put it in there, made it work.
And then I don't know if did we already say the name of the baby?
I don't know. We might beep it out. Just because I don't know if we want perverts knowing what his kid's name is.
Are you serious? Dude, we're the perverts.
Speaking of glomming onto other people's lives, how about a little bit of Celebrity Net Worth? Celebrity Net Worth. How much was it worth?
Very close.
Very close?
Yeah.
That was straight off the bean. That was right out of my brain.
That means that jingle got to you.
Yeah.
So this is a game that I invented. Probably the greatest game of all time. Nick and I select 3 celebrities and we try and guess
I think this might be
what
too
they
long.
are worth.
Could we do like 2 celebrities each?
All right. Yeah.
Last time it took like 12 minutes. It's not worth it.
All right. Okay. So where do you want a clean intro to that?
Oh, if you got one.
That's what we say in the biz.
Yeah.
We're both just like, oh, fuck it.
This has just been so painstaking.
Come on.
Just get this shit done.
I mean,
let's not redo it. I'm going to include this bit as it was, where we included the part where I said I was going to edit it and get a new take. Now we all understand we're only doing 2 of them. We're just going to keep rolling because this has literally been like over 2 hours now.
I literally said the other day to someone, I was like, after Nick and I have done 120 episodes or so, like I reckon we're starting to get the hang of it.
Yeah. All right, fuck it. Let's go. It's happening. We got shit to do. You're freezing on Skype again, so this is all just going to fall apart in a very endearing way. Come up with our 2 celebrities, and I will start. All right, here we go. How much is Marianne Williamson worth?
200,000.
200,000.
Yep.
Presidential candidate.
Yep.
Is that really what you're thinking?
By that.
Yeah. Okay. My guess is she's worth like $200 million.
$200 million, you fuck? What?
I'm pretty sure she's like a billionaire.
Well, if she's friends with Oprah.
That's what I mean, right? Ooh. All right, you've won this one. According to Marianne Williamson, her net worth is between $780,000 and $2.2 million.
Jesus, what did she do before?
I don't know. She was like a book seller. Like she wrote spiritual books, probably.
Fucking hell. I
Yeah.
need to start writing spiritual books.
You would it would make money. Well, I think you need to also be the person that can like embody that belief in front of people as well. And I don't know if you could do like a cynical cash grab book and then trot it out and get away with it.
That's true. I'm too honest. You're right. Okay. All right. Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, good one. Haley Joel Osment. Okay, child star. Hasn't really acted much lately.
Nope. Although it's coming back.
It's coming around. I think there's an osmontissance on the horizon. I think he's worth 12.5 million.
Pretty low.
Really?
As a guess, okay. Well, I don't know. I haven't looked it up yet. Okay. But, yeah, it's a tricky one. I would guess...
His kid, like, he hasn't worked through his adulthood.
I mean, what we're talking about here is the residuals, and then if he's invested. Oh, my God. Are you there? So, Haley Joel Osment, net worth $12 million.
Holy shit! Oh, I nailed that.
That's a hole-in-one.
Yeah. I'll go back and I'll delete
that is
the
literally the
0.5
equivalent
off
of a
my guess.
hole-in-one. That is amazing. Well done.
Well, given the state of our Skype, I'm happy to retroactively conclude that we only ever said we were going to do one of those each. That was our famous game, Celebrity Net Worth.
Great.